can we do and how can we make everything better? With the front bulkhead, rear bulkhead, independent rear suspension, coilovers all the way around, adjustable compression, rebound shocks, a whole different rack and pinion steering, sequential gearbox, and the rear diffuser and the aero components that are part of this car's underside. There's so much to it.
So this is a big week for NASCAR news, the week before Thanksgiving, so naturally you want to start wrapping things up for this year so you can start looking into 2021. And certainly there have been a lot of headline-stealing events for NASCAR this week. Particularly is the fact that the NASCAR Next Gen car has been testing at Charlotte Motor Speedway virtually this entire week on several different configurations of that track. And there's certainly a lot of interesting takeaways from the test so far. And also some hype and some stuff I would describe as non-hype, or perhaps some red flags some NASCAR fans are raising. And actually in this video I may be defending NASCAR, believe it or not. One thing that's going to steal the headlines today is the NASCAR Truck Series schedule, which is slated to come out, well, probably likely around the time that this video is released on to YouTube. We were wondering yesterday, after Eldora Speedway got knocked off the Truck Series schedule, what pure dirt track, if any, would replace it. Well, we now know that Knoxville Raceway, believe it or not, is joining the Truck Series schedule next year, including a few other tracks as well that I think NASCAR fans are really going to like. So, we're going to talk about all of this stuff, but first we need to talk about the NASCAR Next Gen car, because obviously, in terms of future implications for the sport, especially NASCAR-wise, this is a big move. The NASCAR Next Gen car has been testing this entire week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, both on the oval and on the road course. Now, there are 2 cars and 2 drivers testing currently on the track. Kurt Busch is driving a Chevy-powered next-gen car, and really, this was the first next-gen car built. I believe it was actually built by Action Express Racing, which is the Jim France-owned IMSA team, which of course runs the DPI usually. And Martin Truex Jr. is actually driving, believe it or not, a Ford-powered next-gen NASCAR. Now, this is where things start to get really, really interesting. Kurt Busch reported on Twitter that the NASCAR Next Gen car is 3 seconds faster on the Roval than the previous generation car, stating that the reason for this was that, quite frankly, the car was more efficient in every respect. Now, 3 seconds, I just want to say, is a massive, massive gain in terms of auto racing. It's essentially the gap between the front and the back of the Formula One grid, and so many people complain about how far Mercedes is ahead of Williams. Well, that's essentially the gain that the next-gen car on a road course has made over the previous gen car. And of course, we should also note that Kurt Busch mentioned that this was done with 100 less horsepower, so that time is almost certainly being made up in the corners. Now, a lot of people will say this, and we're going to be talking about it. Faster cornering speeds don't always mean faster racing. Usually it's the opposite. But we'll get back to that. One thing I do want to talk about is the noise of the car. And we had some interesting videos from Twitter with the noise of these cars. This video in particular struck my ear as interesting. Let me play it for you. Now that sounds extremely similar, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of things I've been kind of comparing the noise to. I kind of thought for a while it sounded like the old BMW GTLM M3s. Now I know exactly what this car sounds like. It sounds like a 1997 IRL car. Don't believe me? Here's a clip from the IRL at the 1997 Charlotte race. Tony likes I don't know. Let me know what you think. I may be stretching there. This is another key factor. Today, NASCAR posted a onboard shot from Kurt Busch's Chevrolet-powered Next Gen car. And I want to play this clip in full, and I want you to listen to it, because keen-eared NASCAR fans will know what the red flag is when you hear it. And that's the dreaded off-throttle time, or perhaps demanded off-throttle time. But I'm about to do something that is potentially controversial. I'm going to defend NASCAR. Now, here is the big disclaimer when I defend NASCAR. I am operating on the assumption that they are not going to go with a high horsepower or a low horsepower, high downforce configuration for the majority of the tracks in NASCAR Next Gen. With that disclaimer out of the way, and I know that's potentially going to completely bite me, this is what needs to be said. This is a test session. NASCAR is going to be attempting to put every different possible combination of this car out on the racetrack to determine what is the best combination to produce the results that they are looking for. Now, what are the results that they are looking for? Who knows? Are they trying to produce the racing that we saw this year? Because if they are, okay, that's something to criticize. If they're trying to create something better or find the best package with these types of cars, which clearly have more cornering speed, clearly are more capable machines in terms of race cars than the current NASCAR Cup cars, okay, that works. The reason I know this, I'm not just BSing, the photos that we've seen of the NASCAR Next Gen cars have shown these cars in various forms of aero configurations. We've seen high spoilers, we've seen low spoilers, we've actually seen canards sprout on the front, the front splitters of the cars, and then there are other shots where those canards are not there anymore. So there's a lot of things that NASCAR is trying here, and I commend them for doing that. I mean, this is something, and I'm not hating on NASCAR fans, but this is just something NASCAR fans haven't experienced for a while. They haven't had new race cars for a very long time. Even the Gen 6 cars, which they're currently using, are really just developments of the old COT models. Many of the chassis, well, at least for the older teams, are cars that were used or that were built as far back as 2007. So when we're talking about a new car, you have to go back to that COT, and then, you know, before then, it was teams really were in charge of development. There was a lot of new stuff coming all the time. When you got the COT, there was a lot less of this. So I totally understand that modern NASCAR fans look at a video like the one with Kurt Busch on board and go, oh my God, there's no off-throttle time. That definitely means that it's going to be the same package that we've had this whole time that we all hate, and it's time to panic. Hopefully this is just NASCAR going, okay, when we put the big spoiler on and we put the canards on the front and we run at night, that means the car with the 550 horsepower package, XYZ, that means we're going to have a very similar result as we have now. And the reason they may be doing that is to go, okay, we know how to create the bad racing we have now. Let's find a way to fix that. At least that's the hope. That's the hope. Now, the skeptic, which I know you guys love, says to me that's exactly what they want. And if you listen to many of the drivers, including Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, and a few others who have come out and talked about this, it sounds like NASCAR's pretty hell-bent on this direction. High downforce, low horsepower, not a lot of off-throttle time. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, again, make your voices heard if you're a NASCAR fan. If you don't like the package, you don't like the direction it's going, just keep saying it. I mean, NASCAR made a lot of concessions in the 2021 schedule. There's a lot more tracks that have 750 horsepower than don't at this point, or at least at this point last year. So the fans are being heard, and hopefully the next-gen car reflects what the fans and the drivers want and not necessarily what the corporate suits want. But we'll have to see. And we finally get to know what's on the Truck Series schedule, or at least some of the things, maybe the big key points that have been leaked to The Athletic. So they were the first ones to have it. Full credit to them. But The Athletic is saying that Knoxville, Iowa, is going to be on the schedule for next year for the Truck Series. That pure dirt track replaces the pure dirt track at Eldora Speedway. That's a good thing, purely from the perspective of, I think everybody liked the Eldora truck race. There are very few people who didn't. And it's nice to see that that tradition will continue, at the very least, at another track. Believe it or not, they actually are going to run the Bristol Dirt Race. There had been some talk that they were not going to do that it was just going to be Cup and Xfinity. But there are going to be 2 dirt races on the calendar next year. So you get a pure dirt track, and then you get whatever the heck the Bristol Dirt Race is going to end up being. Watkins Glen will return to the Truck Series for the first time in what feels like absolutely forever. I think the mid-2000s, if that was the last time the Truck Series ran at Watkins Glen. It's been a long time then. And Nashville Superspeedway. So Nashville gets another race. The Truck Series, I'm sure that'll probably be the best race of the weekend at that racetrack. The Truck Series seems to put on a great show anytime they go to a 1.5 miler. So there's a lot of good things here. So we'll talk about Knoxville first. Now what's interesting was yesterday, when all the talk about Eldora going away was happening, Knoxville's name was thrown around a couple of times, and I saw some people saying it wasn't ready for a NASCAR race, which is interesting because to me it seems like Knoxville would be one of the only tracks that's a dirt race that would be capable of hosting a NASCAR event, even just a Truck Series event, because obviously they have the prestigious Knoxville National Outlaw Sprint Car Race. So from that perspective, you would think that track would be ready for prime time. Clearly NASCAR thinks it is because they're adding it to the schedule. That'll be fun. Again, I'm happy that we're not losing a pure dirt track on the schedule. Yeah, it sucks that Eldora is going away. And again, you wonder how much the SRX had to do, and Tony Stewart going and starting a rival, quote unquote, stock car league had to do with Eldora being on the schedule or not. I know that Eldora is apparently claiming that they decided that they took themselves off the schedule. Maybe. I mean, I guess. But the Bristol Dirt Race, I think I've said everything I need to say about the Bristol Dirt Race. I think ultimately it's probably going to be a bit of a cluster. I think the trucks will probably put on a better show than the Cup Series, but that's not really saying much because it'll probably apply at these other 2 racetracks too, which are Watkins Glen, which everybody seems to be excited about, and quite honestly, I'm excited too. That may be more of a necessity with the potential of Canada being closed for God knows how long the rest of time, so maybe they won't be able to get the Truck Series in there for a while. So at least you can be kind of close to that market with Watkins Glen and still be able to run a road course, put a road course on the schedule, XYZ. Nashville Superspeedway, again, kind of the same thing as Watkins Glen. It'll probably be a better show than the Cup race, and it's good that that event is getting another support race because I think a lot of people want to see, or at least for me, I want to see a track like Nashville Superspeedway get revived in this particular capacity. And you know, the more racing you have at a track, the more that potential track can generate revenue-wise. All good. What's interesting as well is that I had heard persistent rumors that IRP was going to be added to the calendar. At least from what The Athletic has reported, that it apparently is not going to be the case. But again, we could be surprised later this evening, and it will be on the schedule. We'll just have to wait and see. I did hear some other rumors that this particular truck schedule was going to be condensed, much shorter than last year's truck schedule. Again, that's kind of going to be up in the air until they release the schedule later this afternoon. Anyway, let me know what you think of the NASCAR Next Gen car, of the Truck Series schedule, or just anything that's on your mind down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport news, views, and commentary, and I will see you in the next video.